Welcome to Climbing Together, the small business experience. I'm Beth Houtrow, founder of Climb the Small Business Book Club, and every episode I talk to a small business owner about a mistake that they've made and what they learned from the experience. Mistakes are inevitable, perfection's impossible, so let's embrace the mistake. And today we're so excited to welcome Claire Crum to the podcast. Claire, tell us a little bit about you and your business.
Thank you, Beth. I'm excited to be on with you. I am a native Kansas Citian, and I have a company called Calm Ops, and we are operations professionals. So we work with impact entrepreneurs, social enterprise folks to maximize their mission. How do you do what you do? And let's do it a little bit more efficiently.
Nice. Very cool. All right. And so we are here, as always, to talk about mistakes. So talk to me about a mistake that you made that you learned a lot from.
Well, early in my business, I made the mistake of thinking that I could do all of the things and that it always needed to fall on me to do all of the things. I think that that is something we fall into often as early stage entrepreneurs, particularly those that are feminine. I think just societally, we have some different pressures that kind of make that something that feels comfortable to be the person that is on and doing the things all the time. Where that really came into play for me was, unfortunately, I ended up working so much in my business that there came a point where the pipeline was dry. And so everything kind of came to a screeching halt because I had not given myself the time and space to really grow a business that was going to be sustainable. And so ultimately what I needed to do was set things up in a much more structured way so that I could bring help in to support me.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing, so you were so busy with client work that you basically weren't able to do the sales. And so that's why the pipeline dried up. Dried up.
Absolutely.
Dried up,
and burnout and all of those other kind of fun things.
Yeah, I totally hear you. It can
be, do it all yourself.
I'll be honest, I have so many students and clients that I work with who, especially consultants or people who do service, who I like in the beginning, it could be 80-20 that the back end sales is what you're doing and 20% with clients. And then as you move forward, if you're not giving yourself substantial hours to do sales, like you said, things are going to stop. You can't just be working with the clients. There's a limitation there. So yeah, I love that advice. So talk to me about how you decided to delegate, building those systems, what that meant to you and what that looked like.
Yeah, well, I think to say you just need to delegate seems like a very simple answer until you try to delegate, right? And I think oftentimes what happens is things live in our brain and it just feels so much easier to do the thing ourselves than it is to explain it to somebody else, right? As a mom, that happens to me all the time. It is so much faster if I just do that thing for you. And so, that can be one barrier. Another barrier can be that this is really your baby and it's hard to trust somebody else to put the pieces in place just the way that you want to do them. And so the piece of advice that I bring to folks, myself, but also people that we work with all the time, is to put some scaffolding in place. Think through what the processes look like and document those in some ways. It's really easy to just do a quick screen share recording to say, this is how I do this thing. And now all of a sudden you have a training video. So just even little pieces like that, where you can start to get the information that is in your head out in a way that somebody else can take those pieces and ask good questions, is a great way to start being able to delegate and trusting your team to do the things as you would like them to.
Totally. There's a great little book called Systemology. That's just helps people think about how do you document with videos and then maybe create a checklist to go along with that. Because systems is a scary word. But when you're like, that's kind of a checklist, right? Like I say to people, in the bathrooms at restaurants, when you see like the checklist of how to clean the bathroom, it's like, that's a system, right? It's not rocket science. It's just something you need to take the time to do so someone else can do the work you're doing. Or last week I had a horrible stomach bug and I was out of commission. And if I didn't have some people who were able to do some of the systems, right, everything would have fallen apart. So the doing it all by yourself becomes very problematic when you aren't able to do it at
You're
all.
so right. And that's a great book. Systemology is a
Thanks.
wonderful resource for helping you think through what those key systems and processes are that you need to be able to figure out how to articulate for folks. I also love what Brene Brown says in her book, Dare to Lead. She says it all over the place, but that's the book that's coming to mind. Is clear is kind. And
Mhm.
so, what can happen when we don't articulate well what it is that we're actually wanting done when we try to delegate is we set the other person up for failure instead of success. And so, they come in wanting to do their best for you, but if you haven't given them a clear path to be able to meet your expectations, then it's likely they're not necessarily going to do things just the same way that you would. And so then what happens is you have this kind of like, oh, but I thought you were going to be, and it's hard to build trust in that kind of
Yeah.
environment.
Yeah. And it's a waste of time, right? It's exhausting,
Yeah,
right? If you haven't sat down and thought about what you needed and you're just kind of occasionally, when things are wrong, having people redo it. Yeah. It's a waste of time for everyone. So yeah,
mm-hmm.
love it. Delegation. So important, but delegation with clarity, like you said, right? Not just, hey, figure this out. Good luck kind of delegation, which can be something a lot of new entrepreneurs do, right? Is they don't know how to do it. So
Exactly.
awesome. Okay. So this podcast is brought to us by Climb the Small Business Book Club. And our two tenets are continual learning and community. So for continual learning, talk to me about a book that you've read recently that spoke to you.
The book most recently that I read and really enjoyed is called We Should All Be Millionaires by Rachel Rogers. I think it is a wonderful motivator for particularly women in business to get out there and not be afraid of stepping up and getting yourself out there, and why it's actually really important that we do that. And it also gives a really clear blueprint as to how to move forward towards
Yeah.
the growth that you're aiming towards.
Yeah. It's such a great book. And I kind of like, not that you should have to want to have like a mission behind why you make money, but she spends so much time talking about like women are the biggest donators. Women are the people who help make things go round in our culture and our community. And so women should have the money. You should thrive. You should try to have the money so you can make decisions and have more ability to give and make impact and change. And so, yeah, I was like, oh, yes, now I'm more inspired to make money because it's not somehow as a woman, and maybe it's just me, Midwestern, whatever, needing to be rich doesn't feel quite right. But having wealth so that I can have independence and I'm able to do other things to help other people, that then I'm like, oh, this feels, yeah, that's a great point. And I need to be able to have the wealth to be able to do the helping. So, yeah.
I completely agree. Something I heard a long time ago was to have wealth, to have more money, allows you to be more of the person that you are. So if you are somebody who loves to travel, if you are somebody who loves to provide and give for your family, if you're somebody who loves to contribute to social causes, then you're going to be able to do that ultimately more so if you get into a position where you have the tools, i.e., the funds to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. And then the last question is talk to me about how you've built a community of entrepreneurs around you, whether nationwide or there in Kansas City. How have you found your support community?
Oh, connecting is just my favorite thing. So this one has felt pretty easy as I've gone along because I'm always interested in what other cool stuff people have going on. So early in my business, that looked like being in Facebook groups and learning from other people, not being afraid to be vulnerable and ask some questions,
Mhm.
and then joining communities that were really centered around the things that I was working on in my business at a particular time. So it started out kind of general, but then as I was in groups that were a little bit more niched to areas of my business that I was working on, that is where I really was able to find some of my business BFFs, because we were just kind of in the trenches right there together. It was very easy to see, that we were working through similar issues. And ultimately, I've had the pleasure of being able to meet some of those online friends here in Kansas City locally. So that's even better when you can meet
Yeah,
up with those folks in person.
it is. It's a Zoom and all of that is amazing, but it is a special treat when you get to see people in person and have that connection. Well, Claire, that's our podcast today. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you, Beth. This has been a lot of fun.
This podcast is brought to you by Climb the Small Business Book Club, where entrepreneurs go to learn, discuss, apply, and grow. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to subscribe at Apple, Spotify, or Google Podcasts, or follow us on Instagram at Climb Book Club. And always remember, mistakes are inevitable, perfection's impossible. So let's embrace the mistake.